Hi, good evening, everyone. Give me a quick shout out in the comments to say hello. I am so sorry for the delay. I had some technical issues. In full transparency. I ignored the update your computer button one too many times. So I logged on with like 5 minutes to go. I was thinking, hey, it's the last one. We're good to go. And then all of a sudden I had to do all these updates. And then of course I had to do the restart. And the entire time I was like, oh my gosh, please don't go anywhere. So I'm so sorry for the delay. And I know that there were a bunch of parents who did move in today who were going to watch us a little bit later. So if we lost a few, no worries, we'll get back. So hi, good evening. Welcome to our last caffeine chat of the summer. I am just still blown away at the fact that we are here. You know, I set out and I did all of the schedule for all of these caffeine chats. And I said to myself at the time, I was like, wow, like August 22nd or August 20th, right? No, 22nd is going to be here really fast. And it went faster than even I thought it did. So, and if that's me and I don't have a child who is going off to college this year, if it was that fast for me, I'm sure it was even faster for you. So just an enormous thank you so much for sticking with me, for joining all of these. I hope that you found them helpful. And here we are. We're just on the eve of Welcome Week and your students starting at TCNJ in the fall. And we're just so freaking excited to have them and all that good stuff. So I have a really kind of light agenda tonight. Oh, and actually, before I get started, you're going to find this comical given the fact of my technical issues and that I was 10 minutes late. So this is my mug tonight, and it's a very classic Rise and Shine. And the reason this is amusing is because this was my actual cup of tea from this morning that was never consumed. I worked for about 2 hours. I did a little bit of cooking so that my partner who's holding down the fort this week with the kids, because I'll be on campus for, oh gosh, I mean, I'm on campus today for about 10 hours, and it'll be some long days here coming up into Welcome Week. So I did a little bit of cooking for him, and then I got to campus, and I just came home, and I woofed down dinner. We were in training all day, first day of training with our orientation leaders and our Griffins, and they are just amazing. I'm so excited for your students to meet them on Thursday and get this party started. But I came back, and I woofed down dinner, and I was like, that's really appropriate. So here's the Rise and Grind from this morning. Have a little bit of tea, and we have a lot to go. So couple of quick reminders before we get started. As I mentioned, I have a very loose schedule tonight, right? I want to talk a little bit about Welcome Week, set some expectations for you all, ways that you can support your student through the process, and give a little bit more nuts and bolts to what the 5-day program or 4-day program is going to look like. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've got planned for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the semester. And then I thought that I would just go through and address most of the questions that were submitted ahead of time. So you have to bear with me a second, because with the reboot, I just realized that I don't have them up on my tabs anymore. And we'll kind of go from there. So it's just me tonight. So as a reminder, I will try to look at the chat, but I cannot do 2 things at once. So I will scroll back and see if there's any questions that I missed as we get going here. I see a whole bunch of you are at least connecting and talking about questions about drop and go move in, which is really great. I also hope that everybody's doing well from a post or maybe still ongoing Hurricane Henri situation, especially for my families in the Northeast at Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts folks, and even actually the city on Long Island. But thinking of you all, especially North Jersey. I know that Central Jersey, and I'm just over the river in Pennsylvania, but we got a whole heck of a lot of rain last night. So hope everybody's doing okay and has power and is doing well there. Okay, so that sounds good. I will try to monitor the chat and we'll go from there. So Welcome Week. The schedule is probably going to get out tomorrow unless I can really muster up some energy here and pull some big things to get it up tonight. It's almost done. It's just a matter of getting it into the app now. So I guess that's kind of the first thing that I want to stress to you all is that your student, if they haven't already, should download the TCNJ Roar app. So they can do that on their iPhone through the Apple Store, or if they have an Android through Google Play. But the TCNJ app, they can download it. It is a yellow. Let me see if I can hold up mine for you, actually. So it looks like this. It's a little yellow. Oh, gosh, that's going to be awful. Oh, wait, maybe almost there. Okay, just a yellow square that says Roar right in the middle of it. They'll want to download that, and it's really kind of the one-stop shop. It's integrated into all of the TCNJ platforms. When I used to be a student, really excited that I can say that now, used to be graduate student, all of my assignments would pop up, so all of their class information kind of gets loaded in here, but all of the campus events that we have there are going to be included, and their health pass if they have to do that for certain events or anything like that of nature. I'm not really sure what the deal is going forward with that. That was more of a 2020, 2021 thing. But have them download the Roar app. I will be sending them an email once it goes into the app so that they can download it. The nice part is that they'll be able to kind of click and build their schedule for Welcome Week in the app, right? So very helpful tool, but the hope is that that's going to go out via email to them tomorrow. I'm going to give you a brief overview and just some highlight pieces so that you can have that, because there was some information there. So it starts on Thursday, August 26th. For my transfer students, it will go through Sunday, August 29th, right? And then for my first year families and my provisional student families, you have an extra day, right? So this academic welcome day for the class of 2025 will take place all day on Monday, August 30th. So it's a 4 or a 5 day program, depending on those pieces. And let's talk a little bit first about timing and kickoff meetings. So for you all, residential, I'll start with residential students first. So residential students, you have been obviously participating if you haven't already, or you will be in the next couple of days with the drop and go move in. You're allowed to come back to campus anytime after 2:00 p.m. on Thursday, the 26th. Okay. The kickoff meeting, welcome to Welcome Week kickoff meetings for the residential floors are going to be at 2:30. So right at 2:00 or shortly thereafter, I would time your trip and you're making your commute down here as such so that they can get here kind of as close to as 2:00 or just after 2:00 as possible. Because what's going to happen at 2:30 is that they're going to meet with my staff. So I assign 2 orientation leaders to a group of students. Typically, it's 1 floor. Sometimes it can be like buildings or multiple floors, depending. We try to keep the student ratio about the same, right? So it's typically 1 of my staff to every 25 or 30 students. And at 2:30, they're going to meet with their floors, and they are going to review the entire Welcome Week schedule. And this is something that we didn't normally get to do because of the old way that we did move in. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity, because it really will allow your student the chance to kind of, they're going to get to see it tomorrow. They're going to get to digest it over the course of the couple of days. But any questions that they have about the schedule and about where they're supposed to be and all that kind of stuff, my staff is going to be able to walk them through. So for the residential students, and this is for the first year residential students, I will say that it'll be 2:30 to 3:30. Okay, first year provisional students on the class of 2025. After that is really just like different timing for dinner. Some floors will go to dinner a little bit later. It's all based on kind of like a time. So like every 30 minutes, a certain number of floors will be able to get into Ike. We do that, and we do a staggered eating schedule for the first few days because they don't really know where they're going. Right. So if we had all 1,500 of them show up at the same time, you're talking about crazy wait times and really not good things. So we kind of stagger the arrivals for the floors just to really kind of give them an opportunity to get a feel for ICOF, where the certain stations are, where they go to pick up their trays, drop off their trays, those types of things. So we'll work them through and get them used to that. So dinner will be the first meal. That was another question that we had come up. So yes, I'm feeding them. Of course I'm feeding them. But the Welcome Week meals will start with dinner, right? So dinner is going to be, again, that 3:30 to 6:30 is that first chunk. So I would highly encourage your student to have breakfast and or lunch or a brunch situation prior to them getting here, around 2:00 for those meetings. But those are going to be great. We're going to walk them through the schedule, answer questions, do some icebreakers. If you're a student listening and you don't like icebreakers, don't worry. You will make friends with somebody on your floor who also doesn't like icebreakers, and then you can bond together over your dislike of the icebreakers. If you're a student who is really excited about icebreakers, you're going to be in good hands. So just some getting to know you activities with the floor, just like some name game, those types of things, just to get people a little bit acclimated. So we cover all the meals. It starts with Thursday on dinner. So I'd like to pivot for a second and talk about my residential transfer students and all of my commuter students. So residential transfer students, your welcome is going to come a bit later. Okay, so you are just going to be able to, yes, Sandy, that's right. So the 2:30 meeting is only for first year residential students. the transfer residential students, because you're scattered a little bit all over the place, we're going to do your welcome later, all right, in the evening, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So for my transfer residential students moving in, you can come back anytime after 2 o'clock, but really you'll be able to kind of just get to dinner. Depending on where you're living, there might be other transfer students in your house, in your apartment, or somewhere in the building, but your kickoff is going to come after dinner, okay? So what's going to happen, so that kind of handles the residential transfer students. So then we have dinner at 5:30, not in the dining hall. So the first year students and the transfer students living on campus, they go to ICOF, which is our main dining hall. At 5:30, I'm going to host a dinner, pizza, college staple, for all of the commuter students, right? So we have one room for the commuter students that are transfer students, and we have commuter, one room for the commuters that are first year students, okay? So if you are a commuter student, 5:30 to 6:30, that pizza dinner is going to, and actually, and the welcome meeting afterwards are going to be one of the most important things that you can do. I did get 1 or 2 questions submitted about, what does the commuter student schedule look like? It's a bit different. This is going to be the most important one for them. Michelle, I'm still on Thursday. This coming Thursday, August 26th. So 5:30 to 6:30, we're doing a pizza dinner. The commuter students, transfers, we have in one room. First years, we have in another. They're both locations are located in our student center, our Broward Student Center. Almost all of the commuter events are housed in there because we really want them to get comfortable with that being a really important space for them, right? That's where they're gonna hopefully spend time in between classes. They're picking up food if they wanna eat. That's a kind of a collective, it's the heart of campus, right? So it's really important that, I want my commuter students to feel like they, are comfortable with the space. So we're gonna do their dinner. At their dinner, they're gonna get their t-shirt, they're going to get their wristband for all of their meals, because we pay for all the meals for the commuter students too, or at least the ones they want to come to. And they're going to meet my orientation leaders and my Griffins that are on staff, their transition leaders. So that's 5:30 to 6:30 for the commuters. Again, this is all going to be on the schedule when they get it tomorrow. 6:30 to 7:30 is their kickoff meeting. Okay, so what will happen with the first year commuters is that they're going to meet with as a group, as a cohort, right? They almost kind of act as like a floor. They're going to meet with their own set of orientation leaders, and then the transfer students, we're going to bring in the residential students. So the kickoff to welcome week meeting for the transfers is all of them, whether they are a commuter student or a transfer student. They're going to come and they're going to meet with my staff as well. And very similar to what we're doing with the residential students at 2:30, that 6:30 meeting is when we're going to be reviewing the schedule, reviewing what's mandatory and what's not. And asking, any types of questions. This group's a little bit different, whether they're commuters or whether they're the residential transfer folks, just because they might, people commute for a lot of different reasons. And I find that some of them are just, because of finances, they might have to work. If they're stressed about, okay, well, these things are mandatory, these things aren't, I still have to do shifts over the weekend, those types of things. So my staff will help them navigate, but that's a really important one. The other thing that we do for both of those groups, so the first year commuter students and then the entire transfer student, whether they're commuter or residential, is that we're setting up the group me's. So I won't, I guess I won't make an assumption everybody knows what the group me is, but it's just an app where you can do a group chat with a large group. I have it on my phone for like my staff. So we have a group me with all of the orientation leaders. And they will set up group me's for one for all of the transfer students, and then a separate one for the commuter students. The residential students, the community advisors are setting up group me's for the floor, right? And this is just really helpful because it's a great way to share information. But for my commuter students, the worst thing is that if you want to come to a welcome week event, but then you're like, oh, well, if I get there, like, how will I know where everybody is, right? This is where the group me is really helpful for them, because what we'll do is we'll have commuter students where maybe they're not going to get up and want to go to breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? Or maybe breakfast isn't a thing, but we have a mandatory session at 9:30. They show up on campus at like 8:30, 8:45 to park, and they're like, okay, where is everybody? I want to, let's try to meet up so that we can head over together if they're going to be on campus for those. So it's just a really nice way to kind of stay connected, so that wherever kind of the commuter group is floating for the day, they can meet up with them really quickly. And again, a lot of times they're hanging out in the student center, but if they've decided to do other things or go explore or whatever, we really want the commuters to feel like they are able to connect as soon as they get to campus, regardless of what time that is, right? So again, that 5:30 to 7:30 window on Thursday is really helpful for that group to make sure that they come to. So I think that's a little bit, let me just double check my notes. I think that's it, just to kind of talk about, kickoff meetings, when meals are starting. We will feed them throughout the entirety of Welcome Week. I'll talk a little bit about what happens when the meal plans take into effect in a minute. And then the kickoff meetings, which again, I'm really excited about because we've just never been able to do it. And I think it's going to be really nice to help them. So first big event on Thursday night is Playfair. And that's like a huge one that we encourage all of our students to go to. It's on Lions Stadium, weather permitting. And it's just a really, I don't think there's really much words to describe it, but they'll all come in and we do like a giant kind of tunnel snake to kind of start it. And then it's just a whole bunch of, I would say icebreakers, but I feel like that really doesn't do it justice, right? It's just a lot of really great opportunities. It's like our #1 ranked program every year for the last like 10 or 15 years that we've been running it. And so that kind of kicks off things, right? Thursday night, 8 o'clock. I think that, in previous years, I would always say like, is it too much? Because it's like a really big event and it's a really big day already. And I remember when I moved into college and I was tired, right? And there's just a lot of emotions. And oh my God. But I think with the alleviation of not doing move-in on the same day for most people, and I know some will be moving in the morning on Thursday, I think it's going to be really nice for that. So they will go right into Playfair. And which is not mandatory. I'll say that. None of the evening events are mandatory. Okay. And that will kind of segue really nicely into some of the bigger pieces of it. But I just wanted to share that with you because that's one of our kind of marquee events and that takes place. So they're pretty booked, right? They get here and we kind of get things started pretty quickly. Let me really quickly review mandatory sessions. There are 4 or 3, depending on your cohort, whether you're a transfer or a first-year student or family listening. So the 3 mandatory ones are, and again, on the schedule, Friday at 9:30 a.m., 9:30 to 11, Friday afternoon from 1:30 to 3, and then Saturday morning from 9:30 to 11. So these are mandatory sessions. We bring in outside speakers. They are just, all 3 of them are returning from either last year or multiple years prior to that, and they're fantastic. They're so engaging with the audience, and they're, one of them's like a stand-up comedian, or he's like a comedian / psychiatrist, and just really engaging content because the content's kind of serious, right? Like these mandatory sessions are really starting to set the example and the expectations of what we have of your student as a new member of our community. So one of them deals around making good choices with regards to drugs and alcohol, right? And how to live a genuinely healthy life and making good choices as a college student. We have one that revolves around sexual assault. And he actually does a tremendous job. His session is called Can I Kiss You? And it talks about consent, obviously, and as well as bystander intervention and some of these topics that we know sexual assault's a big deal on college campuses now. So he will go into that. And the third one is the Reverend Dr. Jamie Washington. We're bringing him back, and I'm so excited because this is year 2, and he was so good virtually that I can't wait to see how he is. I'm sure he's even better and more tremendous in person. But he does a topic and a set on building an inclusive campus, right? So again, managing those, or clearly, I guess not managing, but clearly articulating what those expectations are as your student is a new member of our community, right? So all 3 of those are mandatory. Where it's a bit different this year, and again, the students are going to get some information about this when the schedule goes live tomorrow, is that they're a hybrid format. So normally I take all 1,800 plus new students and put them into the Student Recreation Center for these sessions, right? When we were going back to the start of this schedule, I thought to myself, that's probably not a really good idea this year. So we're not doing that. But what we are going to do is give people the option. So our largest theater on campus, it's called Kendall Hall. We will have a cap. It's going to be a couple hundred students, I think up to maybe 600 or 700. But we will have space for students who want to sign up to watch it in person, right? And there's definitely a different experience for that. Yes, they'll have to wear masks, obviously. But that will be an in-person opportunity. And then everybody else will be able to watch it virtually. So we're going to do a Zoom webinar. We're going to live stream. I'm really confident too, because I think I've been working with all the presenters in the last week or so, and they're just so detailed on and committed to, okay, well, how do we make sure that the virtual experience is just as good as the in-person? So I have some high hopes that I really think that it's going to go really smoothly, and that it's going to be equally as great regardless of the format, right? But I want to stress that out there and just to have that in the back of your heads in in case, for example, we have commuter students, right? If you're a little bit further away and you were a little bit stressed about having to get to campus before 9:30 for that session, you could have an option here of doing it virtually and then heading to campus later. Maybe you do the one virtual in the morning, you do it in person in the afternoon. I might have some students who live on campus and they're like, hey, I'm just not really comfortable, going in a large group in there. So I'm going to watch it at home. And then I have others who may be like, yeah, you know what? I totally want to be in person. I'm craving that type of experience as well. So we're going to do it hybrid for all 3 of those sessions. But again, so it'll be on the schedule, but there's 2 on Friday. One starts at 9:30, one starts at 1:30, and then another one on Saturday morning at 9:30. All of those aside, so those are the 3. The transfer students are done with 3. And then the first year students, the entire day on Monday is mandatory. Like they are mandatory from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for academic welcome day. I'm going to cover that in a couple of minutes. So those are the big ones, right? Michelle, do you need to sign up in advance for the Zoom link? No. So the Zoom links, I am waiting. I have to send a formal request tomorrow to get the links, but those will be added to the event in the Roar app, right? There's going to be a tile that says orientation or welcome week, and they can click on it. The link will be included in there. There will be the option. I do think they need to sign and there'll be some sort of QR code so we know they were there, right? So there will be that mechanism for that, but they will not have to sign up in advance. It's just an expectation. I'm not going to chase every student down here. It's mandatory. We're telling you need to do it. Those are the only 3 things that you need to do, with the exception again of your academic stuff on Monday. And I'm just going to trust that they're adults and they're going to make the right decision and they're going to log in and get it done. So a little bit about that to answer that quick question. Okay. So those 3, and hopefully that, again, that hybrid piece gives some people a little bit more flexibility than we previously did. Other than that, everything else on the schedule is optional. Okay. So let me give you some examples of some things that we're doing, because I think that's probably the most helpful. We have a ton of night programs, right? And again, so a couple of this is, and let me take a step back. So we have a couple of departments and offices on campus that are going to be hosting info sessions throughout the course of Welcome Week. I will give you an example. We're doing a big one for the Office of Student Involvement on how to get involved, right? We're doing, the Career Center is doing one on how to, that initial touch point and how to kind of connect with the Career Center. Shannon and Ivani over there, the 2 individuals, my colleagues who we had on 2 weeks ago for that caffeine chat. There will also be, oh gosh, why am I blanking? There's a couple. So there's a couple of office related ones for info sessions in that space. All of them are going to be doing workshops and other info sessions later, right? So that's something to keep in mind as well. If, there's usually a couple things that are going on for the students to choose from. And if they don't make it to one, don't panic, because, the Career Center is going to have more workshops. The Student Involvement Fair is going to be the week after Welcome Week. I'll talk about that in a minute. So a couple of the officers are doing these info session types of things. What else? Then you have a couple of student clubs and organizations are running events, right? An example, on Sunday, we're doing a big club and intramural sports fair. So if your student is an athlete, not a varsity athlete probably, but if they want interest in playing club or at the intramural level, you have an opportunity to connect with those sports teams, or even if they, it was a sport they used to play or a sport they want to play, right? They'll have an opportunity to go to that club fair. Our leadership development program does a session. Student government will host an info session for those types of pieces. So there's a couple of those things spattered in. One of the other big things, so we have a couple of fitness classes. The fitness center will have open hours for people who want to work out. I know ROTC, if you have an early riser, we're doing some fun runs, little 6:30 a.m. in the morning. I have yet to make it to one of those in my 6 years running this program. Maybe this will be the year. No, probably not. So there's a couple of fitness and wellness. We have some mindfulness sessions too, a few religious and spiritual life opportunities, Shabbat, Catholic Campus Ministries, InterVarsity or New Jersey Christian Fellowship, so a couple of our religious and spiritual life organizations will host sessions. So those are kind of the things that are happening throughout the day. The other thing that we're doing to highlight is something called the Pause Lounge. So when you look at the schedule tomorrow, and if you and your students sit down and take a look, it's a little overwhelming. I mean, honestly, it's very overwhelming to plan because it's a little over 100 events. I think 125 if you add in the academic welcome day ones. And for my extroverted folks, they're going to be like gung ho, like, yes, I'm going to everything I can squeeze in, right? But there's a lot of people who are like, no, like you're introverted. You look at the schedule and you're like, oh my God, this is too much. So my recommendations for you would be to take a breath and to take it day by day, right? Depending on how you're feeling. I want you to a piece of advice for the parents with talking to your student about Welcome Week is, we want them to maximize the schedule to what they can do, right? They only get one shot. This is it. And Welcome Week is such an amazing experience because they get the entire run of campus before classes start on Tuesday. So part of you is like, okay, part of me is like, listen, you're only going to get out of college what you put into it. This is a great opportunity to start that. I think there is some value in put a little bit of pushing to get out of the comfort zone. But that said, this is a really stressful point. Okay. This is a point where, they're going to be experiencing all sorts of different emotions. If they've gone, even the ones who had older siblings who went to school, it's different when it's you and it's different when you're getting in there. So I really recommend that, it's okay, right? Don't let the schedule overwhelm you and do what you can. And we certainly have some students that, are not going to do every single activity, and that's okay, right? Actually, I don't think it's even possible for you to do every single activity. But you gotta kind of encourage your student to kind of manage how they're feeling, right? And especially if they call and those types of things. So we do have, I will say this, because, I had my introverts in mind a couple of years ago when we started this, but we do have something called the Pause Lounge. So it's spelled PAWS because we're the Lions. So it's like pause, like a little pause, but it's more of like a stop, PAUSE. So if your student needs to kind of take a breath and wants to get out and be social, but not high key social, right? And some of these more physical and louder activities, I guess I would say, we're doing a bunch of events in that space that are really just focused on like wellness and health and a little bit more of a laid back vibe, right? So they can certainly check that out in the schedule when that comes out as well. I'll pick one of the activities. I know that we're doing a cute little one with like succulents, so they can like decorate a little pot and then they can plant a seed. And if hopefully they do better than me, because I have a black thumb and not a green thumb, so I kill almost everything that I'm responsible for keeping. But kind of along these lines of like, how are you going to grow this semester, right? And how are you going to grow in your first year and hopefully keep this little plant growing too. So just like, a lot of them are kind of arts and crafts focused, but like more of a very laid back vibe. We've got like, adult coloring books and, puzzles and that kind of thing so that they can be social, but a little bit more laid back. So check out the events in the Pause Lounge. That's going to be a really nice an option too. So those are some of the events that are kind of happening during the day. We do a huge picnic Saturday afternoon with a whole bunch of like inflatables, tie-dye shirts, and some lawn games. The student orgs are doing that. And then evening activities. So I will say, we've got a whole bunch of options for them to do in the evening. Saturday night tends to, well, actually, I would argue that we have some pretty good things on Friday night too. So I'll give you a little bit teasers. So Friday night, we have a couple of things going on. We have Mixed Signals, which is our improv comedy troupe, doing performances, and they are absolutely hilarious. The students love that. And then we're also doing something called Tron XL, which is an inflatable indoor laser tag, right? So there'll be signups for that, day of. But really, again, like really thinking about these activities that we're hosting in the evenings. Some of them are going to be, performance based. So they're a little bit chill and laid back versus some of them are a little bit more active. We'll have a bunch of recreation stuff. Saturday night, we do a really fun event. I would argue it's probably just as popular as Playfair on Thursday night, if not more. And it's called Silent Disco. So if any of you have heard of it, essentially what will happen is that they show up, they get in line, they give us their ID, they rent a pair of wireless headphones that'll be all cleaned and don't worry, all that kind of stuff. And we have 3 DJs, it's all outside, and they can pick whichever channel of music they want to listen to, right? So the DJs will do different genres and classics or whatnot, some current things. And the headphone will light up based on which channel you're listening to. So it's awesome because you see this enormous dance party, but if you are Joe Schmo or me, walking down the main path along campus, and you stumble upon this 750 students that are outside dancing, you can't hear anything, because the only thing that you can hear is if you have a set of headphones on. So that's why it's called silent disco. It's so fun. The students love it, and that'll be a huge, I think it's like 4 hours or something on Saturday night. So everybody should be able to come through and have a turn at it. And then we do obviously karaoke. Sunday night, we're doing like an outdoor movie, 2 movies actually. And we have a hypnotist coming who's like supposed to be awesome. So again, combination of performances and more kind of physical kind of hands-on activities. But the goal really here, there's a lot of goals with Welcome Week. We're really strategic actually. Like there's certain learning objectives that we want the students to hit at every point during their transition. But for Welcome Week, one of the biggest ones is just, we want your student to have some friends. We want your student to feel a little bit more comfortable walking around campus. We will usually offer, case in point, one of the afternoons, like academic building tours. So let's say your student's a business student and they have classes and they know that they're in the business building, but you don't know which way to go to find, room 105 versus 224. So we'll do sometimes some of those too. So really the goal is really social in nature, giving them a lot of different options for different types of activities and acclimating them to campus. And so that's a little bit of the overview. I spent like already almost half an hour talking about that. But again, just the advice is that, they don't have to do everything, but I really encourage them to put themselves out there, right? And to lean on people. They have community advisors, staff, they have my staff. I think the other thing to really drive home for them too, and this could be something that happens during Welcome Week or maybe a little bit later in the semester, we know that every student is going to struggle. Every single student is going to have a bump in the road. And for some of them, that bump is going to be during Welcome Week, right? And they're, potentially calling you crying, or they're super homesick, and they're just that adjustment, that initial day or two. I remember years ago, I had a kid, and it was actually the year that I moved from admissions into my current role because I recruited him, and I was really close with the family. And he came into my office so this was Thursday night. So he came into my office on Friday morning, like in tears. And he was like, basically like horrible situation, but his roommate was kind of a jerk and kicked him out of his room the night before. So that first night of college, imagine somebody getting kicked out of, imagine your roommate trying to kick you out of your room so that he could, do whatever with whomever. And I was like, all right, take a deep breath, so we talked it out. I said, okay, I want you to go X, Y, and, do X, Y, and Z. And then I was like, and I want you to come back tomorrow and I want you to talk to me. I'll be here. So Saturday morning he comes in and he's like, oh my gosh, I met these 3 people down the hall. They're amazing. We had the best day. I think that was the year the Playfair was Friday night. He was like, I feel so much better. So I think some words of wisdom is that, if they hit the bump in the road, there's a lot of people who are hitting the bump in the road during Welcome Week, and normalize it. Everybody, whether they look that way or not, is going to miss home, is going to be anxious about what's coming, first week of classes, all that stuff. So I think just kind of, telling them that, this is all very normal what you're feeling, and there's plenty of other people out there who are going to be feeling that way too. So a little bit of advice, for that piece. And then, there's going to be other students that hit bumps in the road later. Your student might be fine during Welcome Week, and a couple weeks into the semester, they're like, thought had a good Welcome Week, but like maybe the people I met weren't people I really want to be friends with. And now like I got to figure out like making new friends and like, whatever. Some people may be fine socially, but they might hit the bump in the road middle of October. They might get through their first round of exams and think what they did in high school or in their previous institution worked for now, and it didn't. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, that could be their bump, right? So we don't know when the bump is going to be for everybody, but there's going to be some. And I think the most important thing with Welcome Week, but really most important in the first 6 to 8 weeks, is just having your student know that there are so many people on this campus who care, so many people on this campus who would draw what they're doing and say, okay, how can I help? Who can I connect you with to help with this, with this or with that or whatever the situation is. I think another quick thing about Welcome Week that I will stress, if we could dispel this myth, that would be great. I get so many students who come into Welcome Week thinking that like they've got to find their best friend like right now, like this whole weekend. Like if I don't have my best friend and my group set up and my friends group all figured out before Welcome Week is over, like college is going to be ruined. No, not true. I didn't find my friends till spring semester my sophomore year. I was almost halfway through college before I found my people. And those are my people to this day, right? So if I had to wait a little bit longer to find my goodies, my good friends and my partner, that it was worth it. But let's dispel the myth that Welcome Week has to be perfect. Plus, there's going to be people who really jive at Welcome Week who are like, ooh, like a couple weeks again into the semester, or maybe after, into the semester, or even after a semester, they're just like, yeah, like my values don't line up with you. Like, I don't, sometimes people are friends for a season and sometimes friends are for a lifetime. So I like to dispel that myth. Also, you don't have to be best friends with your roommate. My roommate, my first year and my sophomore year of college, lovely, had a great relationship, no issues. And we were also very night and day. I was a morning person. She was a night person, made it work. No fights, no nothing. But was she my best friend? No, she didn't end up being, that friend group of people that I've stayed in touch with 20 years later. So, but again, it doesn't have to be that way too. So just some kind of words of wisdom that you can pass along to your student. But I really think the big thing is, one, don't expect to like totally have to have everything perfect. And two, roll with the punches, right? Everybody's going to hit a bump, and everybody is going to be homesick and to have those feelings at some point, right? Okay, so that's a little bit schedule. Oh, let me talk very quickly. So that's up to Sunday night, right? So my transfer students are wrap up on Sunday night. Meal plans, let me go back for a second. Meal plans go into effect on Sunday morning with brunch. So if you're a residential student, we pay last meal Saturday dinner, and then, which is our picnic, and then Sunday meals, you start swiping, okay? They will have a wristband that they will wear for all the meals Thursday night through Saturday night. And then starting Sunday morning, I put this in the description for all the events in the app, they have to bring their ID card to swipe in, because that's what they're starting to do with the swipes. Commuter students, I will pay for you through Monday dinner if you choose whatever events you choose to come from a meals perspective. Okay, so we will do that for the commuter students for Sunday and for Monday, because you don't have meal plans. Okay, so that's a little bit about meals. Transfer students wrap up on Sunday night. On Monday is academic welcome day. So this is for my class of 2025. Whether you are first year or provisional student, you have a marathon day on Monday. So 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. is your kind of academic welcome day. It is comprised of a few things. It starts with convocation, which is it's a presidential event. It's your formal introduction to the college. It is also one of only 2 times that the entire class of 2025 will ever be together. All right. They are together on Monday, August 30th, 2021, and they are for convocation, and they are only together one more time. And that would be whatever the May 2025 commencement date is for that Thursday. For graduation. So it's a really lovely event. I have to be honest, it's probably one of my favorite moments, right? Because we go through all of this entire summer of working with all of you and supporting your students and answering questions and getting them into classes and getting them here. And then we go through kind of welcome week in its entirety. And they're sitting on the lawn of Quimby's Prairie looking at Green Hall, which is this beautiful building. And I can't help but get nostalgic, because it's just like, wow, like they are at the very beginning. And there's something so awesome about being at the very beginning of a journey. And even though it's stressful and it can be overwhelming, it also should be so exciting. They're going to write a chapter here in the next 4 years. It's going to be really special. And it's just really kind of neat, every year to kind of I stand in the back and I kind of watch, and it's really cool. So it's a really fun ceremony, brief, and then they will go. So they will either, depending on the order of the school, they will get one of two. Well, they'll do both, but it'll be in an order. Some of them will go to their dean's welcome first, and some of them will go to their department welcomes first and then flop. But essentially, they are getting a formal introduction from their academic school, from the dean of that school, and then from the department chair, which likely, they should know because they've been working with them throughout the summer on schedules. So those happen all in the morning. Our School of Education dual majors will do 2 department sessions and then a dean's welcome in there. Okay, so they will have a department session formally with their School of Education department and then with their content area. Then they go to lunch at some point in there, and then in the afternoon they have again 2 mandatory sessions, and half of them will do one first and half will do the other. The first is their summer reading discussion. So we break up everybody into their FS first year seminar cohorts, and again, this will be information. This won't be on there tomorrow, but probably Wednesday or Thursday we'll get the list of locations for the summer reading. We have faculty and staff who operate as facilitators, and they talk about the book, right? And they do all that. And then while the first half is doing that, the other half will do a mandatory session with our associate provost for curriculum, Dr. Kit Murphy. And he's going to do an introduction and an overview to our liberal learning curriculum. So liberal learning is the foundation of the college, right? Regardless of what major your student is studying, they have to take a curriculum that checks off a bunch of boxes because we're really focused on producing well-rounded scholars, right? And you could be really, really good at your job, but you need to be sure, we really want you to be prepared to be contributing to society in other ways of life, in other areas of life just outside of that job. So there's all sorts of again, that liberal learning, we call it like general education, we call it liberal learning curriculum, is really important. And Dr. Murphy does an incredible job at kind of laying that out for them so they can start to think about that. So then depending on what time they do, they flip, right? So if they did the mandatory session first, they'll go to the summer reading. They do summer reading first, they'll go to the mandatory liberal learning. The liberal learning, I have to go back and crunch the numbers now, that I think we are going to do that as a hybrid as well. So again, in person or potentially virtually, I need to double check that, and I'll let everybody know. And then that's it. So they're done at 4:30. We do have 1 or 2 events at night on Monday, but nothing too crazy because it's already been a crazy, a very hectic couple of days. And then on Tuesday, they start class and it will be here. Just really quickly, glancing the dress code, Patty, your question for a convocation is business casual, right? And do they take a group picture, class of 25 afterwards? No, it's a very, I spent hours helping out trying to figure this out, but like the recession out is very complex, right? And all of our faculty show up. It's just a really nice event, but we get them out of there. So no, they don't get a class of 2025 picture after convocation, although I'm going to make a note about that because I don't know if we could do it then, but that would be another cool thing to do at some point. And then they're done. So it's a lot. I hope that was helpful. The schedule again should be going out tomorrow. Unfortunately, we're at that time of year where there's only one of me, and I only have so many hours in the day. So it has been formatted. I just need to upload it and tweak it and make sure in the app it's working. So I will be emailing the students as soon as humanly possible. But hopefully, if your student couldn't join you tonight, you could have them just review this part of the session to review that, and then and we'll go from there. Okay. I think we're good. First 6 to 8 weeks. So the only thing I want to stress about this, it's not like the students are magically ready to go when welcome week is over, right? Like first day of class, and I was talking about this a little bit. It's not like they're like, oh, okay, you're good, see you later, right? It's a transition. It's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. We know, again, the struggles that some students will have a little bit later. So for me, it was really big this year, I think in particular, although every year, to be honest, of really thinking about, okay, and what goes on in the first 6 to 8 weeks of the semester, because we know that's like a really pivotal time, right? We want to get college started off on the right foot, and socially, academically, and all those kind of good things. So more to be flushed out. So we've been working on this for a little bit, but basically, this year in particular, because we've been virtual for a year and a half now, right? Regardless of whether you were a transfer student doing virtual at a previous school or whether you were in high school coming in as a first year student. And, that's an adjustment, right? So it's initial adjustment of working in high school course load to college course load or previous college course load to TCNJ course load, right? But then, there's time management and there's, coming back into this non-virtual space. And so you have the normal transition stuff, but then you have it heightened a bit this year for them because they're coming in from the virtual. So we're trying to really go through, first of all, there's tons of programming. I mean, tons of programming from offices across campus, tutoring centers, Center for Student Success, a whole bunch of ones in mental health services and student affairs. So the most important thing your student can do ahead of time, if they have not done this already, is to sign up for, well, they don't have to sign up for the newsletter, but to follow This Week at TCNJ on Instagram. All right. It's just at This Week at TCNJ. Let me see here. Oh gosh. And again, my internet's still giving me problems. So I'm surprised I made it this long. So that's on Instagram. Okay. And the students will be automatically enrolled to receive the newsletter. This is the best way to see about what's going on across campus, right? To be connected, to see what types of events are going on. And one of the biggest one that comes up immediately. So the involvement fair date is going to be September 2nd. So if we start classes on the 31st, that would be Thursday. And it's going to be at night, Thursday night, under the lights of Lions Stadium. super excited for this. It's going to be great. But all 230 plus of our recognized student organizations will have a table. And this is really where your student's going to get an opportunity to walk around, to meet students, to get involved, to put their names on lists, to maybe come to club meetings, to check out what these student clubs and organizations are about. We know that the students who are connected to the college tend to do better, right? So I would really encourage your student to do that. Again, they will get more details September 2nd involvement fair, but really that this week at TCNJ on Instagram is a really great way to go, and tell them to look out for the emails, because each week, and some of these are academic events as well, right? And workshops to come. So workshops, events, it's all going to be on there. And then what I did this year in particular was just kind of took a look, and we surveyed, and we said, hey, everybody, like, what are you doing? Right. And again, some people are still pulling it together here, student staffing and all that kind of stuff. But I really wanted to pinpoint what are a couple of like holes, right? So where are there places that maybe some programming would be a little bit more beneficial this year, or maybe stuff that we should have been doing that we just haven't done? And where can I partner up with people to do those types of things? So we're putting together a couple of events that are going to be co-sponsored with the Office of Student Transitions, and your students will start to see more of that too. So I think that's a really kind of key thing, is that, again, welcome week is a lot, but if you're a student who's kind of like, oof, okay, welcome week was too much, they're going to have more opportunities to get out there and to go to info sessions and all sorts of things that a lot of these offices, these student organizations, and others are putting on for the new students in those first 6 to 8 weeks. So that's a little bit about that. All right, so bear with me 1 second, because again, I apologies again for my technical delays. But I did have your questions pulled up here, and let me go back and grab them. I know that I had, let's see here. Actually, I don't remember, and I don't want to misspeak, so bear with me 1 second. Summer 2021. All right, there you are. So let's pull you up. Oh, technology is not my friend tonight. All right, I think we're cooking now. All right, here were some of the new ones. So let's see. I believe there was a question about parking, somebody being ineligible and parking all, and I believe that was also in the group chat. So I'll really address that pretty quickly. They should have gotten the parking email. So first year students are not allowed to have a car on campus for the academic year. They are allowed to apply for up to 2 weeks. They can pay for up to 2 weeks per semester. So if there's like a short-term need, where they would need to kind of get home or do something, that you can apply for that. And that's just parking at tcnj.edu. I know the person who submitted this question was waiting on an answer for that. I know that office is very understaffed at the moment. So hopefully you're going to hear back soon. But if you want, you could just, I think they asked for a telephone number. I would just call student accounts. So parking services is a part of the Office of Student Accounts. Their number should be on the website, and hopefully somebody can get back to you with an answer to that. Our incoming sophomore, junior, senior, so our new transfer students, if you're living on campus, you can apply for a residential parking pass. And then obviously commuters, whether you are first year students or transfer students, commuter students can apply for that parking pass as well. I believe I mentioned this a couple weeks ago when we had Scott on, but the parking on campus, like ticketing, is suspended typically the first 2 weeks of the semester. So the Office of Student Accounts has a bunch of times that they'll have a table in the student center for you to pick up your parking pass. So if you are commuting to campus, don't panic that you can come and you can park in the commuter lot. You're not going to get a ticket in the first 2 weeks until we give you some time to get your pass up. So there was a question about that. I had a few questions about, and I think this was being mentioned earlier, like residence halls, cleanliness with move-in this weekend. This email, supposedly an email about windows or whatnot. I would defer all those questions to housing, just the housing at tcnj.edu. I know this, a little bit, some bumps in the road, kind of every year, hit or miss with that, but we do a lot of maintenance on the residence halls over the summer months. And sometimes it happens that, occasionally we have a room or a couple of rooms where they didn't get to them, but they're usually very, very responsive about getting on top of that. So just make sure that you're kind of touching base with housing for some of those pieces. I would kind of defer to them on that. I talked a little bit about commuters, the ID card. So I would imagine for my commuter students, you should be hearing soon about when you're going to receive, when you can pick up your ID card. They were still in the process of figuring that out when I talked to them last week. I don't know if they're going to do something similar, either picking it up at the office or if they're going to have a table in the student center and certain hours that they will be available for you to pick up. But we will get you that ID. They will communicate the rooms and things of that nature. Are there any requirements for fully vaccinated students to be tested for COVID? No. So if you are fully vaccinated at this, to my knowledge right now, because I'm fully vaccinated and I don't have to do it, there's no testing. If you have an exemption, then you do, I believe there's like a 2 times a week, or if you're partially vaccinated at this point, in that process, there's some protocols for that. And your student should have received information about that. Textbooks again, I would probably watch the last Caffeine chat because I did talk into a bit of detail about that. The 26th, this was a good question. So with the dropping of your student off right after 2 o'clock, so you as parents and guests, and I'll kind of reiterate the guest policy that came up last week too, or 2 weeks ago, you were not allowed back in the residence halls. That 3-hour chunk of time you did drop and go move in was your only time that you were going to be allowed in the residence hall. So when you come back to campus, if you get here a little early and you want to walk around, we're a public institution, we're public space, you're free to do that, but you will not be allowed back into the residence halls. And I think as a reminder, so it's only other residential students, right? So residential students are allowed to go into other residential halls, but all of our off-campus or commuter students are not able to. And that is something that is consistent even through Welcome Week. So my staff, for example, all of my orientation leaders who live off campus or are commuting to campus, they're not allowed to go in the residence halls either. All right. So that proved some challenges that we had to work through as well. But that's just the policy that we were, that we're working with. And again, at the end of the day, this is the goal, to keep everybody safe so that we can keep this moving forward and give everybody what they want, which is just as much of an in-person experience as we possibly can. I understand you all got the mandate about the masks. I was in training. All of my in-person trainings the next few days will be with the masks as well. So I would encourage your student. That's a great question. So your student can just head to head to their residence hall room. All of the excuse me, welcome to Welcome Week meetings for the residential students at 2:30 on that Thursday are going to be outside, weather permitting, right? Again, because my staff, some of them could go into the residence halls if they live on campus, but many of them cannot. All right, so those were some questions. I think that was most of the ones that we talked about. Portable AC units allowed in the rooms? No. I would take a real good look at what to bring, what not to bring list, and there's a whole list of what you can and can't bring on the housing website. I would highly encourage you to look at that, but portable AC units are not a thing. Their fans are definitely okay, but there's like a certain type that I think is helpful, or they recommend. I think there's like maybe a tower, maybe not. I'm not sure from like a space perspective. But again, there's going to be some more information coming down. You're on that website, actually. I should say coming down the pike. You should already have it, or it should be on that website with what's available and what's not. But AC units, portable ones, are not an option. Okay, let me just really quickly through. Oh, Labor Day is a holiday. So I did have a question about that. There are no, I don't know. We have a really kind of robust, there's certain things, there's things that go on the weekends, right? I think one of the questions I used to get admissions was, is TCJ a commuter school or a suitcase school, and everybody, kind of just leaves on the weekends? No, there's a lot of events that are going on. We do a really great Recreate Your Night series, sporting events, all sorts of things. But that weekend, some might be a little bit higher percentage of students who choose to go home. So that Monday, there is no class, and there will be some events, but there's not going to be any kind of mandatory events or anything that that I'll be doing, right? I'm kind of wrapped up with the event piece from a Welcome Week perspective on Monday. So if your student does choose to go home or wants to go home for a weekend, that would be fine. I did say this, I think, in the chat earlier, that yes, we are hosting a parent family day. It will be the same day as homecoming, so it's going to be Saturday, October the 2nd. So that's coming up, and that's a really nice opportunity to kind of get to see your student and visit and those types of things. So that's an option as well. Let me see. Okay, that was it for questions. Let me scroll back really quickly and chat. Oh, you know what? I wanted to do one more thing, and I don't think I did this with you all. So bear with me, and I'll see if I can do a screen share. I had a question really, and this will just just a few minutes, and so if you have to pop off, that's totally okay. But somebody had a question about what Canvas looks like, right? So like what would a course look like? So what I thought I would do, if you have a minute, is pull up one of my old ones. So I'll try to pick one that I can't, I'll try to pick let's see, which one should I show for all of you that would be a good example of that. Okay, I will go back to my Psychology of Management course. So let me do a quick share on the screen, and I can just walk you through. Can we get into the dorms on Parents' Day? No, nobody is allowed in the residence halls. Done, done, done. All right, let me do a screen share here, Chrome tab. Okay, so I will really quickly, and again, I haven't been in here in a minute, but if you can see my screen, let me just double check and make sure that that's coming up. Okay, great. So I'll do a really quick run through. This is how, and again, there's going to be some variation for how the faculty members use Canvas, but to give you a sense, so these were, again, very similar to kind of online orientation. They will have a list of all of your participation. These were a list of all of my past assignments from that semester. So you'll see like we had units and we had reaction papers to the units. I believe if you go down here to modules, so they did a really good job with this course, right? So this was an introduction module, and then we worked into foundational perception and attribution. So essentially what they would do is that you can go through. So like they would say, okay, by the end of this unit, you're able to, there's links to articles or videos or articles that they wanted us to read. If you go a little bit further, I believe they did some videos that they were able to import. So it's highly engaging. Yes, this is an example of an asynchronous class, which is a bit different for the graduate level than the undergraduate level. But you can go in here, and then they would do, I'd listen, listen to the lecture and take notes. So this is a little bit about how modules can be set up in the course. Every incoming, every class has a syllabus, right? So a posted syllabus, and what they'll do a lot in that first week is review that. And this should be something that your students do immediately once these become live, right? That first week, get all of, review the syllabus, get all of the deadlines and due dates in their planner, however they're choosing to track their, track their assignments. But that syllabus is a Bible in a sense to kind of get your student through. Media, Zoom, obviously, again, I was a graduate level course. We were already a blended model. Your grades, it'll keep track of your grades there. And then a lot of times there'll be like discussion posts, right? So we each had to, as part of the assignment, you'll see over here, the number of comments and new comments and things of that nature. So each unit here had a discussion post and then announcements. So this is a great way for your faculty members to reach out to your students. Oh, look, project grades posted, thank you, right? So they would go through if there were changes to office hour updates or, project changes, any things of that. They had the announcements feature in there. So this is a little bit about the case, how it looks in Canvas. If you go to courses, all of the courses that your student is registered for will show up here. If they're missing ones, if they go in today and they're like, where is my course? Don't panic. It just means that the professor hasn't published the course yet, right? I used to have something, and I don't think it's in here now, that said at the bottom, like, yeah, it won't be on here, but it used to say future enrollments. So I could see that there were classes coming, but I didn't get a chance to go in yet because they weren't done, right? And obviously I don't have any future enrollments, so that's the case. So I hope that was helpful. Your student is going to, definitely kind of walk through this in the first week, and obviously our faculty members are aware that they're new to TCNJ, and they'll be able to kind of help with some of those pieces as well. So. Let's see. Oh, someone asked earlier if it's turns to bring a chair for welcome week. Yeah, that was a good one. And I forgot because there was a couple of submitted questions about that too. So we were encouraging students to bring lawn chairs or like a pop-up tent chairs last semester when they were living on campus in the spring, because we, they were much heavier restrictions in the residence halls. They weren't allowed to have anybody in their residence hall with them. We were single occupancy versus double. Our lounges weren't open, like very limited. So we kind of said, okay, Day, if you want to come, you can sit outside 6 feet apart and you can bring a little tent chair, and that could be helpful. It's a little bit different this year, obviously with the current, the current setup in the residence hall. So I don't know if they need it, but if they want to bring it, it can't hurt. That actually brings up another kind of tip for those of you who haven't moved in yet. You don't have to get everything on the first go. I think I might have said this a couple weeks ago, but you have Labor Day, you have Parent and Family Day. Obviously get the big stuff in, because you as parents and guests are not allowed back into the residence halls after your 3-hour time slot. But, if you have an opportunity, sometimes people have to live in the space a little bit. So if you're going to live in the space a little bit, you might decide a couple weeks later, yeah, you know what, now I need X, or, I brought Y, but I don't really need that. They don't have to have the entire winter wardrobe down here in September. They're based on all this heat, they're not going to need it. And you can certainly kind of, make trips, and they can kind of go in and out with that. So I would really stress that as well. Not the end all be all that you have to get everything in there. It was so funny because yesterday was my last day that I have off until, start of classes, and I'll be on campus for 10, 12 hours a day going forward. So I was trying to get all my errands done, and I made the mistake of going to downtown Princeton. I had to pick something up, and I was like, why are there so many people around, right? And then I was cutting through. I got my picked up what I needed to. And there I see this family dragging a carpet, had a huge piece of carpet. And I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I was that silly to think about that. So Princeton was doing moving yesterday too, but you have time, right? I think case in point is that you can, you have an opportunity to drop stuff off later, and it doesn't all have to be, you got to live in the space a little bit, I think, to kind of see. So, all right. I think that was the big stuff. Let me just very, very quickly, because I'm almost at an hour from the delay. Let me just kind of scroll back and see. I know a bunch of you were talking about the move-in process. I hope that's been going well. Let's see. Where's Lindsay? I'm sorry, everyone. Okay, some questions about move-in and those types of pieces. Yeah, so there should be rolling carts, but not in any of the residence halls that don't have elevators. If they have elevators, they likely have carts. And if they don't, that's that. So I think I've addressed everything. So I'll stick around for an extra minute or two. I think most of this stuff was stuff that I've covered now through the process. Anne Marie, is there a specific place where students can find information on any first day assignments? So that would be kind of crazy if they had an assignment on the first day and they didn't publish the course till the first day. So I would just say, so generally no, but just keep an eye out on Canvas, just like they should be checking their TC&J email every day. Normally what happens is that once the course is published, the faculty member will send an email that says, hi, your course is open. But in the case that they don't do that, I would just have them get into the habit of logging onto Canvas and to see, what if things are published or not. But typically, in my 2 years here, I think the only thing that was really due on the first day was like a discussion post, right? Like a getting to know you type of thing. But I don't even know if that's really a thing, because your students are undergrads and they would be in person. So I think that's a bit of a moot point, but there's not going to be anything for that. Buy their books in advance online or wait to receive their syllabus? So that's a great question. I talked about that a little bit. I don't remember. I think it was the caffeine chat from that Monday, July 26th. But that's up to them. I ordered mine usually a week or two in advance. I only ordered the required textbooks, and then I kind of navigated my way around for some of the optional ones. I do have some students that will wait until the first week and talk to their faculty member to figure it out. I just am a bit type A, and the thought of not ordering my textbooks until after class had started didn't sit well with me personally, so I didn't want to do that. But to each their own. I think you can go both ways. If you go through the bookstore, if you order earlier, you do have a higher chance of renting some of the used books, right, which are a bit cheaper than renting some of the new ones or even buying outright. So that's an option too. Okay, where exactly do you drop them off at the residence hall? Yep. Oh, I was making a joke to it orientation a couple weeks ago, like not to slow down the car. Well, not to slow down the car before, and don't just like push them out and say, hey, see you later. But it's not going to be a big production. We don't have anything planned, anything special for the parents or that. It really is, it's really a, hey, hop out of the car and we'll see you later kind of thing. So I know that sounds awful. And probably my future Lindsay self in 10 years when it's me that's going through this would probably be like, oh, but yes. yeah, a little bit funky this year with the drop and go, but some pros to that too, I think, having lived through 1,500 of them trying to move in on the same day. All right, I'm babbling. I will stick around and take a look at the chat for a few more minutes. One more thing, and then I'm gonna let y'all go. Okay, so thank you. First of all, again, I think I said that in the beginning, but thank you so much for spending some Sunday nights with me this summer. I hope you found these helpful. It has been a true pleasure getting to know you, over the course of the last few months, and they are going to continue. So I had a meeting, I've had several meetings with my colleague Susie, who runs the parent and family programs here at TCNJ, and we are going to continue the caffeine chats. It will probably lose the OST. They will just be caffeine chats that all parents are invited to. So your class, but then all of our junior, sophomore, junior, and senior parents will be invited. We are going to do 2 in September, and you will get, if your email was given during the application process, it will be automatically uploaded into our parent family database, and you'll receive an email. We do a quarterly newsletter, and there is one that comes out in September, and Susie's going to send you the dates for those. But there's going to be 2 in September, and then I think 1 in November. And we really focus again on the 2 in the beginning for the first 6 to 8 weeks, because we know those are so critical. But they're going to be open to any parent who wants to join in. We'll have some special guests. We're going to talk a little bit about what were the first ones? We just went through all the topics, but it's late and I don't remember, but they'll be helpful. We'll tell you what the topics are ahead of time. So not the last that you will see of me, but if there's anything that I can do to help in the next couple of days, I will be very honest with you. My inbox is not a good place right now. So I would say that I will reply to your message, but it's very unlikely that I can at this point, because we're in training all day and there's only one of me, but we'll do our best. But if there's anything that I can do to support, especially afterwards, and then tell your student, if they're I hope that they have an amazing welcome week. If there's anything I could do during welcome week to help them, please send them to me. I'm located on the 2nd floor of the Student Center, but enjoy the last couple of nights home, and good luck, because Jameson is 8 and I can't even be, so it's 10 years until I'm in this boat, and I give you all the credit in the world. I think it is the hardest thing to do, but I will say as a parent to you to just trust that you have raised a great kid and a child who is going to hopefully have a great experience and learn a lot about themselves. I mean, the hope of college is that you're going to come out being the version of yourself that you always wanted to be, and they are well on their way to that because of you, and it's just as much of an accomplishment for them as it is for you that they're at this point. So congratulations, and I really look forward to hopefully getting to know some of you a little bit better as the semester goes on, and then maybe even see you in person for some of Parent Family Days. So congratulations, enjoy these last few days at home, and just know that they're in good hands. Everybody on this campus is just so excited to have them back. All of our students, and in this class in particular, they're just so special. And, we're here to support your student in absolutely any way we can. So thank you again also for your patience with my technical difficulties, but I'll stick around for another minute. But if not, have a lovely evening, and good luck, and we will see you soon. Okay, have a good night, everyone. Thanks again.